Red Line Logbook here for Danmachi, Hestia, Familia, Part 13. Where we left off, Belle and Ryu were trapped in the deep floors, hunted by the Juggernaut, and the Amphisbaena just got summoned to kill the rest of the Hestia party. To announce its birth, one of the Amphisbaena's heads fires off its napalm, which is able to vaporize all the water that's not actually part of the lake, filling the entire 25th floor up with steam like a sauna. Obviously, they all decide the best thing to do is to run away instead of fighting it. As they're doing this, of course, the Amphisbaena attacks them with its napalm. It almost gets Haruhime, but Oka does his job and blocks the napalm with his shield. The shield is then immediately just melted, proving that this is a one-shot kill, that if anyone gets hit by this, it's over. They're about halfway to the 24th floor exit when the roots of the great tree labyrinth collapse above them and form a cage that traps everyone on the 25th floor. Cassandra immediately realizes that this is the cage of despair that was mentioned in her prophecy. Completely trapped and facing a floor boss, they basically lose all hope. Aisha is the only one ready to still fight, but when she looks at everyone else, she realizes there's no point in even trying to make them. Without Belle there, without their hero, they aren't even going to budge. Not even she can replace Belle at this moment. It's not about stats, it's about the hope that Belle just brings to the party. She then starts to wish Belle was there, but then completely snaps out of that mindset, because she doesn't need a man or really anyone to save her, and she'd rather just go out fighting. And so that's really her plan. She starts to move forward to basically fight the Amphisbaena on her own, basically die alone. That is when everyone hears the smashing of crystals. It's Welf with his greatsword. He wanted to make sure everyone was paying attention to him. He then looks to Lily, who's trembling on the ground on her knees, and says, "Is this your first time? Is this your first time having an adventure without Belle?" Welf doesn't see Belle as a hero. He sees him as his partner. The two of them have been equal since the day they met. That's how he sees it, and that's how Belle sees it as well. And so he's the only one who can say this, that they don't need Belle to always save them, that they don't need Belle to always be there. In fact, we're holding Belle back if we can't kill a floor boss on our own. Because if they can't do this, then that means Belle will never be able to rely on them when he continues to move forward. They'll always be a burden. They're adventurers too, not Belle's sidekicks. This kicks Lily up on her feet, agreeing, saying that she'll always stand by Belle as his supporter. That's what she promised. And everyone else also begins to stand up and say the same exact thing. Oka has no interest being second to Belle, neither does Chikasa. Mikasa doesn't want to be an embarrassment to him after all he's done for her. Haruhime also wants to keep growing, being able to do things for herself. And Daphne, just amused by everyone, and actively wishes to be a part of this. The battle begins. Lily takes command, because Daphne has to fight in the front lines. And the first move is for Welf to freeze the water. The Amphisbaena, of course, smashes all the ice and blasts it with its napalm, but for the most part, most of it stays solid, and everyone's able to move around on the ice to fight the monster. Aisha then immediately uses her magical attack on it, her red slash, but she does this not as a way to kill it, she does it as a way to show its secondary ability. The first head shoots napalm, the second head shoots out a magic steam that neutralizes all magic. And so her attack, of course, is neutralized. So that means the obvious plan is to attack the monster head on and not use magic. Haruhime then uses her magic. She level boosts Welf, Oka, Mikoto, and Daphne. She leaves one tail in reserve because if she used that, she'd collapse from mine down. She'll save it for emergency uses. Because Chikasa didn't get a level boost, she's forced to play support with her arrows. Daphne also decides to use her magic. It's a basic spell that just increases her speed. Not to downplay it, because now with the level boost and with this spell, she's actually faster than Belle. As the Amphisbaena uses more and more napalm, their footholds keep melting away. As a result of this, the battle is becoming more and more difficult. Plus, because it's a sea dragon, the monster is able to dive under the water and then shoot itself up like a shark, attacking from below. Lily then begins to doubt herself, but her teacher Daphne tells her that there's no time for that. She needs to focus on what she can do, not on what she can't do. Assess the situation and figure out the best way to fight. Lily looks around and then she decides to move everyone. She actually orders Mikoto to move back to the middle and start chanting, while Daphne goes up to the front. The Amphisbaena dives under the water again, but Lily then orders Mikoto to use her skill now, Yakuto Black Crow, which allows her to sense types of monsters she's come in contact before. She's then able to warn Aisha that it's going to attack her from below. When Mikoto finishes her chant, Lily then orders everyone in the front to move back, and for Mikoto, fire her spell upward. The Amphisbaena responds by using its mist to dissolve her magic. She wasn't aiming for the Amphisbaena. She was aiming for the roots of the great tree. And under the weight of Mikoto's gravity, they come down, crushing the Amphisbaena. That's when everyone charges forward and starts hacking away at the Amphisbaena. As a response to it being brutalized, it makes a giant roar, signaling the other monsters to come to its aid. So now they're forced to fight not just the floor boss, but all of the weaker monsters. With their help, the Amphisbaena now gets a second wind wind and does another devastating attack in the water, hurting pretty much all of them. That's when Daphne realizes they're not getting healed, sees Cassandra completely just cowering in the corner. She then rushes over her, hits her in the head, and asks her why she's not helping. At this point, Cassandra has completely given up on trying to fight against the prophecy, and has just basically given into it. And she even asked, why aren't they giving into the despair? Why aren't you giving into the despair, Daphne? Because normally Daphne would have given up a long time ago. I mean, she knows her friend well. And Daphne's response is basically, I like them. They are sappy, overly optimistic, very good people. And that's why she likes them. She likes being with them. She likes spending time with them. And she wants to be a part of that. And if they're willing to fight this impossible battle, she will happily stand by them. And she looks at Cassandra and says, you feel the same way, don't you? Daphne then rushes back to the front lines. And Cassandra comes to realize that she agrees with Daphne. She does care about these people, and she does care about the hopeful nature that they have, and she wants to also be by them. And that is when she finally starts using her healing magic. She heals the Vanguard, and now they have a second wind, and now the tides are turning in their favor. Lily then orders Welf to create another foothold, and they all charge forward again. She has Chikisha focus on the other monsters with her bow, so the Vanguard can focus on the Amphisbaena. Now that everyone has a job to do, and they know how to do it well, they're slowly wearing down the Amphisbaena. In fact, Aisha is calculating they'll be winning soon enough, but then she remembers something. She remembers that she's only ever fought the Amphisbaena on solid ground. Because what you do is you lead the Amphisbaena away, and then you fight it in an enclosed room where you have solid foothold. But she didn't know the reason why you didn't fight it in the water, but she's about to learn. The Amphisbaena dives into the water once again. Mikoto uses her skill, and the plan is simple. Just wait for it to attack someone, and while that person runs away, everybody else can jump it and start slashing away at it, as they've been doing. But it doesn't go for anyone. It goes up the waterfall. The Amphisbaena has an ultimate move when it gets pushed into a corner. It does a high dive from the top of the waterfall into a massive belly flop. This launches all the water around it at high speeds in every direction. It's so powerful that rocks and crystals are smashed to pieces. The impact is like having your bones rattled. Basically, everyone is heavily bludgeoned. Mikoto falls into the water and is attacked by fish monsters that immediately grab onto her flesh, ripping it apart. Cassandra, being a level 3, uses her body as a shield to protect Haruhime and Lily so they don't take the brunt of the attack. And unfortunately for her, rocks and crystals smash into her head, and she basically is on the verge of losing consciousness. Everyone is able to pull themselves out of the water and get on solid ground. They're completely bruised up and beaten down. They realize Mikoto is missing and is calling for her. Daphne sees a patch of the water that's turning red and doesn't have the heart to say that she found her. The Amphisbaena then immediately pops out of the water, and the first thing it does is it fires its napalm at Lily and Cassandra. Ignore the anime. In the light novel, Cassandra just got bludgeoned in the head protecting Lily and Haruhime. That's why she can't move. She did not ramble on about despair again. That didn't happen. Lily's trying to move Cassandra's almost unconscious body out of the way, but she can't do it. That's when Haruhime jumps in, pushes both of them out of the line of fire, and is engulfed by the napalm. With Mikoto and Haruhime presumed dead, both Oka and Aisha go into a complete blood rage. The Amphisbaena then uses its mist as a smokescreen so it can dive back underwater. And without Mikoto's skill, they have no idea where it's going to come back up. It comes up under Oka. He takes some damage, but as he's flying through the air, he can then hear a voice singing, and that's when he realizes Mikoto's still alive. He then continues to charge forward at the Amphisbaena and tells Welf to then unleash all of his magic sword's power. Welf thinks he's gone crazy because he doesn't get an actual explanation, but he goes along with it and basically launches the entire power of his ice magic sword at the Amphisbaena. Of course, it uses its magic canceling mist on the ice. The reason why Oka wanted him to do this was to cancel out the power of that smoke, so this way Mikoto's magic could be used on the Amphisbaena. Mikoto was dragged to the bottom of the water by the fish monsters and is currently being eaten alive, but she's right under the Amphisbaena, so all she has to do is cast her gravity magic right above her. It instantly kills the fish monsters. It also begins to crush her own body under the weight of her own gravity, and it holds the Amphisbaena in place even though it doesn't actually kill it. But that's not necessary, because Oka plans on using her gravity. He runs across the branches of the great tree, and using her gravity, he's then able to use the ultimate move that he was taught to him by Takemichi, a move that allows him to cut anything in a single slash. The issue is, he hasn't mastered it yet, so he can't do it himself just yet. But with her gravity, he's able to cut off one of the heads of the Amphisbaena. Aisha is also able to hear someone singing, Haruhime. Haruhime survived the attack by covering covering her entire body with the Black Goliath cloth, ignoring the anime again, because Haruhime does not uncover herself from the Goliath cloth because she's completely covered in napalm, and she would die if she did that. So she just stays underneath it, cooking like an oven, is what she says. She continues to chant to use her last foxtail on Aisha. Of course, Aisha realizes this and charges forward, chanting her magic. She gets her level boost, she goes to level 5, and finishes her spell. The Amphisbaena senses the magic again. The napalm head then waits for its magic canceling head to do its job, but then realizes it just got cut off and decides to then blast Aisha itself with its napalm. But it's too late. Because of that hesitation, Aisha is able to attack, and she goes straight for the magic stone. Oka swims down to grab Mikito. Aisha grabs Haruhime out of the fire, and then everyone who is injured is basically doused with magical potions for healing as quickly as possible. Lily then sees that the Amphisbaena left a drop item, extremely rare one, the Amphisbaena liver. She of course picks it up and puts it in her pouch. Now they're safe, what do? Do they head up to the 24th floor to escape, or do they head down, try to find Belle? Since the whole place is now beginning to fall down on them, they decide to have a quick vote, basically, arguing about where they should go. Aisha, Oka, and Chikasa all want to go up so they can save Haruhime and Mikito. Lily and Wealth want to go after Belle, and Haruhime and Mikito don't get a vote because they're so injured. Daphne is about to decide with escaping to the upper floors, but that's when Cassandra breaks in and says, no, we need to go after Belle. Because of another part of her vision that she just figured out, they'll find salvation with the light of the sun. Now, because she was a part of Apollo's Familia, she kept assuming this had to do with Apollo the entire time, and she was wondering how that made sense. But once she was able to move past that bias, she realized the sun was referring to a direction, not a person. They're supposed to go east, the direction of the rising sun, and also the direction of the 26th floor, so going down towards Belle. Now it's 3-3, Daphne is the deciding vote, and she actively refuses to believe Cassandra's vision. And her choice, of course, is to go to the 24th floor to escape. But that's when Cassandra really begins to beg and put her foot down, saying if there's any time to believe her vision, it is now. This is the time, when their lives are on the line. She puts every bit of passion she has into this speech towards her friend Daphne to convince her to go with her to the 26th floor. And Daphne's response is to say that she doesn't believe her visions, but she does believe in Cassandra. She then grabs her and starts running towards the 26th floor. Everyone is somewhat stunned by this, but the decision was made. 4-3, they go after Belle. While they're heading for the 26th floor, Turk and his men are still alive, and they're using the roots to head for the 24th floor. They finally give fully way, collapsing in on themselves, killing Turk and his men, but also crushing the exit to the 24th floor. Meaning that if they went that way, they all would have died, along with Turk and his people. So, they decided that they're not turning back until they find Belle. In the meantime, Hestia got the letter from Lily that was sent about Ryu, and so she sends in the reinforcements that Lily was asking for. First person she asks is actually one of Hephaestus' members that are currently guarding their home, but for the most part she's just playing inside of Welf's forge because she wanted to mess with Welf. It's the captain of Hephaestus' Familia, Tsubaki, level 5. She also goes to the Mistress of Fertility, Ryu's workplace, and asks if the ladies there are strong, and basically tell them what's going on. She successfully recruits 3 of their members, Noir, Anya, and Chloe, all level 4s. While down on the 26th floor, they are just constantly being attacked by monster after monster after monster. The reason for this is because they are in a frenzy after what just happened. No more monsters will be spawned because the dungeon is currently healing itself after the massive explosion, but in the meantime, the monsters that still remain are attacking relentlessly. To show how desperate the monsters are to kill every adventurer, Kelpies start attacking them. Monsters that spawn on the 27th floor are now on the 26th floor. Traveling up the rapids is even hard for them, so the fact that they're here means they are desperate to kill any humans they can find. Worst part is, Welf and Oga are basically on par with the Kelpie in strength, so the only one who can really fight them and kill them is Aisha and Daphne, and so their only plan is to run away. And as they run away, even more floor 27 monsters appear, like Lamias, so no matter where they go or what they do, they're being attacked by monsters that are just high level 2 in strength. Their only option is to run away while Daphne and Aisha hold them off, but they're already exhausted with the fight with the Amphisbaena, so this is just a war of attrition. Did the dungeon run out of monsters first, or the 2 of them get exhausted and die, and then the rest of them get ripped apart by monsters? The way things are going, latter is most likely going to happen. In a complete act of luck, Welf is smacked into the wall by one of the stronger monsters, and out pops Animantite. But this is Animantite from the lower floors. They continue running when they hear a voice screaming. They then move towards the voice, hoping that it has anything to do with Belle, and it happens to be Bors, the sole survivor of the Juggernaut attack. He's completely unarmed, but he still has his fists, and he is just punching through a wall of monsters that are trying to kill him. They question him about what happened, and he explains about the incident with the Juggernaut killing everyone. Of course, they ask about what happened to Bell, and he says Bell died. They all refuse to believe this, especially Lily. Then he says, I witnessed his arm get cut off, and I watched his neck get snapped. He's dead. So is Galewind. They both died trying to protect me. Lily, of course, loses it after that. There's no time to keep talking, more monsters keep attacking, and so they run for it. Unfortunately, they're boxed in at both ends. Welf uses his magic sword to kill the ones in front so they can keep rushing forward. But the magic sword is about to shatter. They end up running to a dead end, and Lily is basically lost all hope. Belle was the last thing she had for her to live in this world, and Aisha basically sees that. So she demands more details out of Bors about Belle's death. So he explains in more detail how he got his arm cut off, then he had his neck broken, he could even hear the snapping of the bones, and there's no way he survived an attack like that. She then demands, is there anything else? Do you see him die? And Bors' response to that was, well, no. I saw Galewind use healing magic on him, but there's no way a wound like that could be healed so easily. So even if he is alive, he'd be holding on by a thread. This, of course, snaps Lily out of her funk, rushes over to Bors and demands, is it possible that he's alive? Any shred of hope. And Bors says, there is, of course. But once again, he has his doubts. But that doesn't matter to Lily. All she needs is that little strand of hope. With this shred of hope, Aisha then declares they're going to keep searching for Belle and head to the safety zone on the lower floors. Bors is completely against this because he wants to go nowhere near the 27th floor in the Juggernaut. But Aisha basically shames him because both Belle and Ryu saved his life. So if he's not willing to risk his for theirs, well, then he isn't really a man. After the decision was made, they all decide to rest for a minute. So this way they get their strength ready before pushing forward. In the meantime, Welton thinks to himself, they're not going to make it. What they need are magic swords, but they don't have any. And the only one they have left has one shot left. They're all going to die without a magic sword. And then he starts to think to himself, what is he supposed to do? He then prays to Hephaestus, what is he supposed to do? And then he remembered what she said to him. As long as you have material and a hammer, you can make anything, anywhere. And so that's when he comes up with the insane idea, forging a magic sword in the dungeon. He tells everyone this and asks them to trust him with their lives. At first, everyone questions him if he can actually do this. In fact, they think it's insane that he would even suggest something like this. But he continues to argue that he can do this. And then finally, Aisha then asked him, are you sure? Is this something that you can do? Forge in the middle of a dungeon while being attacked by monsters? And his response is, yes, I'm a blacksmith. And so they agree to his plan and prepare a defensive line to protect Welf from the monsters as he starts crafting his magic sword. They have Oka and Bors act as a shield wall protecting the exit while the rest of them stab at the monsters as they charge in. Welf, on the other hand, realizes something real quick. He may not be strong enough to actually forge with adamantite. Now, the armor Belle wears is made from adamantite, but Welf used impure adamantite from the upper and middle floors. He's never worked with pure adamantite before. He can't even hammer it out, let alone forge a sword from it. He's starting to fear and even doubt himself. And then he starts to have a conversation in his own head. And one of the things that he actually brings up to himself is the Crozo family motto about forging. He wants to reject this, but he actually does agree with the way his family used to be before they were obsessed with magic swords. And then more voices in his head start asking him, why are you forging this sword? At first, his answer is to survive, which is an obvious answer, but his other selves reject this answer completely. Why do you personally forge? What is the point? And yes, he forgot at that moment because he was scared for their lives, including his own, but he does realize that the whole reason why he forges is for Belle and the rest of his friends. Everything he creates is for them. And with his realization and actually listening to his Crozo techniques that he was taught by his grandfather and father, he actually starts to beat the adamantite into shape. He also thinks to himself that magic swords break and they always betray their wielder because of that. And he can't accept that. If he's going to forge something for Belle, for his friends, he's got to forge something better. He thinks of the weapon that Hephaestus showed him when they first joined the Familia. He wants to forge something better than that, something that's beyond perfection. A weapon that proves that he's worthy to stand next to Belle as his partner, and also to have Hephaestus as his woman. An indestructible magic sword. The monster is able to breach in and force them to form their second line, which is a circle around Welf. But it doesn't matter because Welf successfully finished his sword. He asks Cassandra's help, and the two grab onto the magic sword together and burn all the monsters away. The flames ripple like a flower flowing in the wind, and that's when Cassandra realizes that this was another part of the prophecy, the golden rays of the sun. This magic sword is as powerful as any other Crozo magic sword, but the reason why it doesn't break is because it doesn't have magic infused into it. No, what you do is you pour your own magic power into it. And so, someone like Welf now has the power of a mage. A mid-ranking mage like Cassandra would have the power of a high-ranking mage, and a high-ranking mage would have ungodly levels of power. Thanks to Welf's magic sword, they're now able to push to the 27th floor, blasting any monsters that get in their way. The only downside is, once again, it uses his magic power, so Welf is getting exhausted little by little. Eventually, they finally make it to the litter of bodies that the Juggernaut left behind, and they slowly follow it to where Bell fought the thing. When they finally make it to the room, there's no one there, not even the corpses of everyone the Juggernaut slaughtered. It's just an empty room with the Lambton's hole. When they do discover the Lambton hole, they kind of put two and two together and realize that Bell might be even deeper. A group of large flying black fish called Ventimera jump out of the water and start swimming through the air. The swarm is so large, it basically blocks the exit and traps them inside the room. The reason why there were no corpses is because these things ate them all. These monsters are some of the most powerful on the floor. As a result of that, the party is being overwhelmed. They all start running out of energy. Welf, because he's spamming his magic sword, is the first to fall, but soon everyone else begins to go down as well. That's when they hear the roars of even more monsters coming from the entrance that they were trying to escape from. Overwhelmed and now about to be outnumbered completely, Cassandra is actually knocked over while holding Haruhime. And right before one of the giant fish devours her, one of the monsters from the exit saves her, killing the fish. And the other monsters start to also help out, slaughtering all of the black fish. That's when Lily realizes these are the Xenos. Haruhime gets to reunite with Ween. They start to hug each other. Ween then tells her that this entire time that they were separated, she didn't cry because she didn't want any of them to worry about her. Then she starts crying now that she's reunited. So they get to have their touching moment. Oka and Chikasa recognize these as the armored monsters that should have been killed by the Loki Familia. Ask Lily what's going on. And of course she doesn't respond because they gotta keep the secret of the Xenos. That's when the rescue party finally shows up. And of course Lily's quick to then ask them to attack only the monsters that are the black flying fish. Sabaki ends up interacting with Welf. She immediately sees his new magic sword and knows exactly what it is. She gets a little jealous and decides to poke and prod him, but congratulates him on the work he did, and welcomes him as a proper blacksmith. Leto then interacts with Maria, and she informs him of what happened to Bell. He then uses his monster language to communicate with the rest of the Xenos, and they all start moving towards to save Bell. Let, who is currently disguised, informs Lily what's going on, and he tells her that they are going to lead the way. If she wishes to follow, they'll carve a path for her to save Bell. Lily runs over to Anya and asks her what her level is. In fact, what are all the waitress levels? And Anya tells her that they're all level 4s. Lily says that's perfect and declares the entire party that they're going to go even deeper because Belle and Ryu were dragged even further down by a monster. Daphne completely questions this because obviously there's no way Lily should know any of that information, but Lily does not care. She declares that they're doing this no matter what. The rescue team obviously are okay with it because they were sent there to save Ryu. So if Ryu ain't here, she's down below her, they're going for her. Boris tries to back out of it, but obviously Aisha ain't gonna let that happen. Obviously, Oka then demands to Welf that they give him answers about the armed monsters, and Welf promised once they get to the surface he'll explain it. Daphne's irritated, but she does agree, finally, to finish this mission. And so, they all head off to the deep floors. Alright, if you enjoyed this video, please subscribe, give it a thumbs up so you can enjoy more Danmachi and other things. Thank you, and have a great day.